Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're exploring something really incredible, I think, hill terrace farming,
Oh, yeah.
specifically in Himachal Pradesh, India.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking all about, these amazing farmers who've turned the sides of mountains into fertile fields, and they're growing everything from like staple grains to those amazing Himalayan apples.
Yeah, the apples are incredible.
Yeah. I'm curious, so what is it about this specific region that's made this kind of farming not only possible, but so successful, like for generations?
So for me, what makes it so fascinating is the blend of ancient wisdom and just pure resilience.
Yeah.
These farmers have inherited techniques that have been refined over centuries,
Wow.
transforming these steep slopes into these amazing terraced fields. And it's a constant battle with this unpredictable weather and this really challenging terrain,
Yeah.
But they've learned to not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah.
Working in harmony with nature instead of trying to dominate it.
Yeah. It's inspiring to see how they've really learned to adapt and work with the land over so many generations. Can you just, before we dive into specifics, can you kind of paint a picture of Himachal Pradesh? Like, what is it like being there? What's the landscape like?
Girl, imagine this. You've got these towering snow-capped peaks. And then nestled in the foothills, you have these vibrantly green valleys.
Okay.
It's a very dramatic landscape with incredibly steep slopes, and that's where the genius of terrace farming comes in.
Right.
These farmers, they essentially sculpt the mountainsides into these level platforms. So it creates a cascade of these fertile fields, and it almost looks like a giant staircase just reaching up towards the sky.
Wow. Okay, so we've got this incredible, varied terrain.
Yeah.
And then the climate, right?
Yes.
Plays a huge role in what kinds of crops they can grow.
Absolutely. So Himachal Pradesh is a patchwork of microclimates because of all these varying altitudes. So you've got warmer pockets that are perfect for things like pomegranates and grapes at the lower elevations. And then as you go up higher, it cools down, and that's where you get those world-famous apples,
Yeah.
And then certain vegetables flourish. And so you get this incredible variety of crops.
Yeah.
Far more than you would get in a region with a more uniform climate.
And speaking of variety, let's zoom in a little bit. So imagine we're actually there on one of these farms.
Yeah.
What does like a typical day look like for a hill terrace farmer?
Okay, so picture this. The sun is rising over these majestic peaks, casting like this golden light on all of these terraced fields.
Beautiful.
But the farmer's day has already begun long before that.
Right.
So they're tending to their livestock, they're milking cows, they're feeding goats, they're collecting eggs. So it's a symphony of morning activity.
Yeah.
And then it's off to the terraced fields. Their tasks change with the seasons, of course. So they might be planting, they might be weeding, they might be irrigating, or they might be harvesting. It all depends on, what that land needs at that moment.
I mean, it's so dependent on the seasons and what they're doing at that time.
Absolutely.
And it's not a one-man show either, right?
No.
I imagine family plays a huge role in this type of farming.
Totally. This isn't just a job. This is a way of life that's woven into the very fabric of their families.
Yeah.
So everyone pitches in. You have the youngest helping out with maybe some weeding or taking care of smaller animals, to the elders who are sharing their knowledge. The traditional farming practices that have been passed down through generations.
Yeah.
There's this strong sense of community and shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Everyone is working together to make sure that that land thrives.
And speaking of, passing things down through generations.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, what kind of crops are we talking about here? We know Himachal Pradesh is known for its apples, but what else are these farms producing?
So, yeah, you're right. Apples are a star player, especially in regions like Kulu, Shimla, and Kinnaur.
Okay.
But the real story is the diversity.
Yeah.
Think about things like peaches and apricots and plums, even cherries.
Wow.
Bursting with flavor in these warmer, lower altitude areas.
Wow. So they've really taken advantage of these different microclimates.
Absolutely.
What about vegetables?
Yes.
I'm picturing all sorts of delicious greens thriving on these slopes.
You're right on the money there.
Yeah.
So potatoes are a staple, particularly in the Kulu Valley and other temperate zones.
Okay.
And yes, all sorts of leafy greens thrive here. Cabbage, cauliflower, spinach, all doing really well.
Nice.
Even in the cooler months.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget the tomatoes, adding that burst of color and flavor to the mix.
Okay, you're making me want to go there.
I know, right?
Sounds amazing. So we've got fruits, we've got veggies. What else are these farms known for?
Okay, so here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Think spices.
Oh, okay.
So you have things like ginger and garlic
Okay.
thriving in those subtropical pockets kind of tucked away in the hills.
Wow.
And then you have the truly special Himalayan herbs, many of which have been used for medicinal purposes for centuries.
Wow.
So it's like a treasure trove of unique flavors and traditional remedies.
Really fascinating. It's incredible how much they're able to cultivate, given this challenging landscape that they have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine there must be some serious downsides to farming in this type of environment.
Yes.
What are some of the big obstacles that they face?
So one of the biggest is just limited land area.
Okay.
The terraces themselves, as ingenious as they are,
Right.
they do reduce the overall arable land available.
Right, of course.
So it's a constant negotiation between making the most of those slopes while respecting the limits of the mountain. And then there's water scarcity.
Okay.
So while some regions have access to natural streams or irrigation channels, others really rely heavily on rainfall, which can be very unpredictable in the Himalayas.
Right, I imagine that makes things tricky. And I'm guessing the terrain itself makes things pretty difficult, like just transporting their harvests.
Oh, absolutely. Getting goods to market can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
The roads can be treacherous, and some areas have very limited access.
Yeah.
And this makes transportation costly and time-consuming, which can have a real impact on their profits and their ability to get their produce to a wider market.
So even if they have a fantastic harvest, actually getting paid a fair price for it can be a real struggle.
Exactly.
And then, of course, we can't forget about, this looming threat of climate change that kind of impacts everything.
Yes, climate change is a major concern for these farmers.
Yeah.
The unpredictable weather patterns, whether it's unexpected frosts or prolonged droughts, can just devastate entire crops.
Wow.
It can just wipe out months of hard work. It's a constant battle against the elements.
There's a lot to contend with.
It is.
Are there any advantages, though, to this type of farming that kind of help counterbalance some of these challenges?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some silver linings for sure.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the terrain itself, that same terrain that makes things so difficult, often leads to a reliance on organic farming methods.
Okay.
Because using heavy machinery on those slopes is just often impossible.
Right.
So natural fertilizers, like manure, are more common.
Okay.
And this is great for the environment,
Yeah.
and it produces incredibly high-quality crops.
So in a way, they're almost being pushed towards more sustainable practices by the landscape itself.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and remember that diversity of microclimates we were talking about?
Yeah.
That allows them to grow a wider variety of crops.
Compared to places that have more uniform conditions.
Yeah.
So this kind of acts as insurance.
Okay.
If one crop fails because of weather or pests, they've got others to fall back on.
So they've kind of built in this protection.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fascinating how they've learned to turn these limitations into strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, this is their livelihood. So how are these farmers doing economically? Are they able to make a decent living from all of this?
So that's where things get a bit more complex.
Okay.
Because while they produce this incredible array of goods, we talked about the apples and the spices and the vegetables, that market access, the transportation costs really eat into their profits.
Right, yeah.
And so their income can be very variable, really dependent on things like crop yields and weather conditions, which, they don't have much control over.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a constant uphill battle, both literally and figuratively.
Is there any government support in place to kind of help them navigate these uncertainties?
Yeah, so there are some initiatives.
Okay.
The government offers subsidies, especially for apple cultivation, because that's a major export.
Right.
And there are programs that aim to improve infrastructure and promote organic farming practices.
Okay.
But the effectiveness and the reach of these programs varies.
Yeah.
And a lot of farmers still face a real struggle
Okay.
to make ends meet.
So how are these farmers adapting and kind of finding ways to thrive in this really challenging market? What are some of the strategies they're using?
So one of the most promising trends is the rise of farmer cooperatives.
Okay.
So by joining forces, they can pool resources.
Right.
They get better bargaining power with buyers.
Yeah.
And they can reduce transportation costs.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they're able to really overcome limitations of individual farming and build a more sustainable kind of economic model.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great example of community strength in action. Are there any other innovative solutions that they're embracing to kind of create a better future for themselves?
Well, some farmers are turning to agritourism as a way to make some extra income.
Okay.
So imagine these picturesque farm stays nestled in those stunning terraced fields.
Wow.
And, tourists come, they experience the beauty of the Himalayas, and they can immerse themselves in this unique farming culture.
And I bet they get to eat some delicious food, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fresh, locally grown ingredients.
Yeah, that's amazing. So they're finding these creative ways to share their way of life and connect with people. What about technology? Is that starting to play a role in these traditional practices?
So while adoption can be slow because of the cost and the access issues, we are seeing some really exciting developments.
Okay.
So polyhouses, which are essentially greenhouses that create controlled environments,
Right.
they're becoming more common. And this allows them to extend growing seasons and protect crops from unpredictable weather.
Makes sense.
And then drip irrigation is also being implemented to conserve water, which is really important in areas that are facing scarcity.
So it sounds like they're being really thoughtful about how they're integrating these new technologies while still respecting that traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
What about the ecological impact of all this? What are the implications for the environment?
So that's a really crucial point. Remember those terraces?
Yeah.
They're not just aesthetically pleasing, they actually play a vital role in preventing soil erosion.
Oh, wow.
Which is a major issue in mountainous regions.
Right.
So that stepped design actually slows down water runoff, allowing it to seep into the soil and nourish those plants while minimizing topsoil loss.
So it's almost like this natural form of sustainable land management.
Yeah, exactly. And since many farmers practice organic methods, there's less reliance on chemical fertilizers and pesticides, which further reduces their environmental impact.
Right.
So these traditional practices are actually very much in line with modern sustainability goals, even if that wasn't the initial intention.
And I imagine that benefits biodiversity as well.
Totally. The diverse crops that they cultivate create like a mosaic of habitats. And this supports a wider range of insects and birds and other wildlife compared to, those large-scale monoculture farms.
Right.
It's a really beautiful example of how agriculture can coexist with and even enhance natural ecosystems.
It's a really powerful takeaway, especially in a world that's struggling so much with habitat loss. So what stands out to you as like the most fascinating aspect of all this, hill terrace farming? What makes it so unique and important in the big picture?
So what truly inspires me is the sheer adaptability and resilience of these farmers. They're not simply clinging to tradition, they're constantly innovating. They're integrating new technologies, and they're finding creative ways to thrive in an environment that is constantly throwing challenges their way.
Yeah.
It's a story of human ingenuity in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much we can learn from them as we face a future of increasing uncertainty and environmental change.
It really makes you appreciate just the complex web of factors that, bring food to our tables.
Absolutely.
From cultural heritage to the balance of nature. Now, let's delve deeper into some of the challenges these farmers face, particularly in the context of climate change and market dynamics. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive.
As we dig a little deeper into the challenges that these incredible farmers face, climate change is definitely a big one. It's like a shadow hanging over everything they do.
Yeah, we touched on it briefly before, but I'm curious, how is it actually impacting their daily life and work?
Well, the biggest and maybe the scariest thing is just how unpredictable the weather has become. The monsoon season, it used to be so reliable. It brought the water they needed, but now it's so erratic. They're getting much more rain and it's more intense. And this triggers landslides, increases soil erosion, and just damages the crops.
So it's not even just more rain, it's also like when it comes and how strong it is.
Exactly. And then on the other side of that, they're also having these longer dry periods.
Oh, wow.
So their water resources are stretched thin, and it really affects the crop yields. It's all about balance, right? And climate change is making that balance really hard to maintain.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. I'm curious, how are these unpredictable weather patterns specifically impacting their crops? Like, what are some of the things they're seeing?
Okay, well, think about the apple orchards.
Okay.
They're especially vulnerable to changes in temperature.
Okay.
So apple trees need a certain number of chilling hours.
Healing hours.
Yeah, basically periods of cold temperatures.
Yep. And they need that to produce fruit properly.
Huh.
But with temperatures rising, they're not getting enough chill time, and that means smaller yields.
Oh, wow.
Lower quality fruit. And that's a huge concern, especially since apple cultivation is so central to their livelihood.
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for farmers who have spent generations, perfecting their craft.
Mm-hmm.
Are there ways to adapt to these warmer temperatures, though? Like, can they do anything about those chill requirements?
These farmers are so resourceful, they're always looking for ways to adapt.
Yeah.
So some are trying out these drought-resistant crops,
Okay.
Varieties that can handle those longer dry spells.
That makes sense.
And others are changing their planting schedules,
Okay.
trying to work with the rainfall patterns to make the most of the water they have.
So it really is this dance with nature. They're constantly having to anticipate and adjust.
It really is, yeah.
What about water conservation specifically? Like, are there certain techniques or innovations they're using during those drier times? For sure. Some farmers are going back to these old rainwater harvesting techniques.
Okay.
They collect and store rainwater,
Okay.
so they have it to use for irrigation
Right.
when it's dry. Others are investing in more efficient irrigation systems.
Right.
Things like drip irrigation, which delivers the water right to the plant's roots.
Okay.
So there's less waste.
Interesting. So blending the old and the new to really face these challenges head on. Are there any other climate-related issues they're dealing with besides, the changing rain and temperatures?
Well, climate change doesn't just affect the weather, right?
Right.
It also brings new threats like pests and diseases.
Oh, okay.
As temperatures rise, some pests that were once kept in check by the cold are now doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to infestations that can really damage their crops.
So it's like this ripple effect where one change causes all these other problems.
Exactly. And managing those pests without using a bunch of chemicals adds another layer of complexity.
Right, yeah.
They're constantly experimenting with natural pest control.
Okay.
Things like using beneficial insects or plant-based solutions.
Okay.
Passed down through generations.
Well, it's about keeping that balance, right?
Yeah.
Really protecting the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to see that kind of dedication.
Yeah.
We've talked about climate change, but you also mentioned those challenges with how the market works.
Right.
Can you tell me more about how that impacts their ability to make a living?
One of the biggest hurdles is simply getting their produce to market.
Right.
Remember, many of these farms are way out there, limited roads, tough terrain.
Yeah.
So just transporting their crops is a nightmare,
Yeah.
It's expensive, it takes forever, and they often have to rely on middlemen
Right.
who take a big cut of the profits.
So even if they manage to produce a great harvest, getting a fair price is a whole other battle.
Exactly. And they're up against these big mechanized farms that can produce things more cheaply. It's hard to compete in a market that values quantity over quality.
Right.
And doesn't always appreciate the value of their sustainable, hand-tended crops.
So what are they doing? How are they responding to these market pressures? Are they finding ways to make their products stand out?
Oh, they are. We talked about those farmer cooperatives, and those are really key.
Okay.
They give them more power in the market.
Okay.
They can work together to get better prices, lower transportation costs, even access training
Oh, wow.
to improve their skills.
That's great. It's really using, teamwork and collaboration to overcome these obstacles.
Are there other strategies they're using to make their products more attractive? I mean, how do they get people to really want what they have?
They're getting creative.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just selling raw ingredients, they're making value-added products.
Okay, like what?
Think about those delicious fruit jams and preserves made with Himalayan berries.
Oh, wow.
Fragrant teas from hand-picked herbs.
Okay, yeah.
Aromatic spice blends that have been passed down through generations. It's such a cool way to showcase their heritage and offer something truly unique. Right.
Exactly. And it helps them reduce waste, too. Like if they have a bumper crop of, say, tomatoes,
Right.
they can preserve them or make something new,
Right.
extend the shelf life.
Yeah.
It's all about using their resources wisely and adapting.
It's about finding solutions and turning potential losses into opportunities. We also talked about agritourism.
Right.
It seems like that's becoming more popular. How is that helping them connect with a larger audience?
Agritourism is great for them. It's another way to make money, and it lets them share their way of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, educate people about sustainable farming. Imagine travelers hiking through those incredible terraced fields,
Yeah.
learning about their techniques, enjoying amazing food made right there on the farm.
It's a full experience, right?
It really is. And it's not just about the money. It helps people understand the challenges these farmers face.
Right.
Connects them to where their food comes from.
Yeah, it's bridging that gap, between the people who eat the food and the people who grow it.
Exactly. It's about sharing the responsibility, understanding that supporting sustainable farming isn't just about buying organic, it's about supporting a whole way of life.
It's about choices, right?
Yeah.
Making choices that have a positive impact. These farmers are showing so much resilience, but they need help. What's the government doing to support them and ensure that this way of life continues?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the programs and initiatives designed to strengthen hill terrace farming. So we've talked about how resilient these farmers are and all the challenges they face, from the crazy weather to the tough market. But they're not doing this all on their own, right?
Right, they're not alone. The government knows how important hill terrace farming is.
Yeah.
Not just for the people who depend on it, but for the environment too. So they've put different policies and programs in place to try to protect this unique way of farming. Some help with money, some with promoting good practices,
Yeah.
some with infrastructure, and others with getting better market access.
Can you give some concrete examples? Like, how do these initiatives actually work? What kind of support are we talking about?
Okay, well, one of the main things is subsidies.
Okay.
The government gives financial help for certain crops, especially those apples we talked about.
Right, yeah.
It helps to encourage production. And they also provide subsidies for things like fertilizers and irrigation systems,
Okay.
to make things a little easier on the farmers.
So it's about lightening the load, right?
Yeah.
Giving them the resources they need to succeed.
Yeah.
But what about those market access issues and the transportation problems we talked about?
Oh, yeah. They're working on those too. They realize that better infrastructure is key to connect these farmers with bigger markets.
Yeah.
So they're spending money on better roads up in those mountain areas, making it easier and cheaper to get the produce out there. And they're also investing in things like cold storage,
Right.
which can really cut down on losses and help keep those fruits and veggies fresh longer.
That makes a lot of sense, giving them more time to get everything to market.
Exactly.
It sounds like they're really tackling this from all sides. But we've talked a lot about the economics. What about the environment? Are there any government programs that encourage those sustainable practices these farmers are already doing?
Yeah, definitely. They're really pushing sustainable agriculture these days.
Okay.
There are programs that encourage organic farming, which, as we said, is already pretty common there.
Right, right.
They're also promoting water conservation, things like rainwater harvesting and drip irrigation to help them deal with those changing weather patterns. And there are initiatives to support integrated pest management, which is all about using natural ways to get rid of pests.
So it's all about recognizing the value of what they're already doing and supporting those efforts to farm in a way that's good for the environment and their bottom line.
Exactly.
It's really cool to see how these government policies are lining up with those traditional practices. But beyond infrastructure and sustainability, what about the farmers themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Are there any programs that focus on empowering them?
There are some really great initiatives for education and skill development.
Okay, cool.
They offer training programs,
Okay.
teach them about modern techniques, climate-smart agriculture,
Yeah.
value addition, like those fruit jams and spice blends we mentioned.
Right, right.
It gives them the tools and knowledge they need to adjust to changing conditions, get better yields, and make more money.
So it's not just about handouts.
No.
It's about giving them the power to shape their own future.
Exactly.
That's awesome. But with all this modernization, what about all that traditional knowledge they have?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize that those old ways are really valuable and they need to be protected. So some government programs are actually focusing on writing down and preserving those practices that have been passed down for centuries.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's like recognizing that sometimes the answers to today's problems can be found in the wisdom of the past.
That's so true. It's not always about leaving the past behind. It's about finding ways to combine it with new ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
But are all these programs actually working? Are they really making a difference for these farmers?
Well, there are still challenges,
Of course.
and we can always do better, but these government initiatives are playing a big role.
Yeah.
They're helping to level the playing field, give them access to resources and opportunities they didn't have before. It shows that policy decisions really can make a difference out there in the real world.
This shapes lives and the future of this incredible agricultural heritage. It's really a testament to the power of working together, you know, and valuing both traditional knowledge and innovation. And recognizing that supporting sustainable agriculture isn't just about the money. It's about preserving a way of life, protecting the environment, and creating a fairer food system for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a really inspiring story. It shows that even when things are tough, human ingenuity and respect for nature can lead the way to a more hopeful future.
It's a message that goes far beyond just the Himalayas.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we can all play a part in supporting sustainable agriculture and appreciating the connections between our food, our culture, and the planet. We hope this deep dive into the world of hill terrace farming has gotten you thinking and given you a glimpse into the lives of these amazing people who are working so hard to feed their communities and care for the earth. Thanks for joining us.